With reaction there, with more, I want to bring in former ambassador at large for Counter Terrorism Paul Bremer. Ambassador, thanks very much for your time this morning. Welcome. Let me get your take on that very question, Ambassador. Do you think there will be a shift in the conversation, or a shift in the expectations to take in all of those refugees here in the U.S. rather?
Well, I don't know. It's obviously a sensitive question, but let's look at the bigger question here, Maria, which is there going to be a change in American strategy? These Islamic extremists declared war on us 25 years ago at the founding of Al-Qaeda. And the president has said that his objective is to destroy ISIS. Now, you know, the people can say, well, ISIS is really, it's an ideology, and you can't destroy an ideology, but you can destroy a caliph and a caliphate. It's been done many, many times over the last 1,000 years. The caliphate is based in Raqqa, which is the town in Syria that the French hit yesterday. So we need a strategy which basically says you kill a snake by cutting off its head, and the head is in Raqqa.
Yes, and that leads me to my next question is, why did we need another attack where 129 people are dead today and more than 300 others are injured in order to actually hit those sites in Raqqa? I mean, if we knew exactly where those sites were, and if we knew exactly that there were recruitment centers and there were all of these other ISIS headquarters in Syria, and we knew exactly where they were, why didn't we hit them before we had another attack in France, Ambassador?
Well, I'm not a very good spokesman for the administration, because that's a question they would have to answer. The president said some time ago that he thought ISIS was the junior varsity. I'd hate to see the varsity when they get on the field.
Well, it is an extraordinary situation that we find ourselves in, and I think the obvious question is, what does our strategy look like going forward? And what about NATO, Ambassador? Tell us your thoughts in terms of NATO countries and how NATO will work going forward.
Well, I think the initiative lies with the French. They could invoke the article in NATO treaty, Article 5, which requires all NATO allies to come to the aid of a member. We did it in Afghanistan, and a number of NATO allies, including Germany, sent troops to Afghanistan as a result. I don't know if the French will go that far or not. But for all the Europeans, this issue raises the real question of whether they're going to continue their open borders policy. The fact that one of these guys apparently was an illegal immigrant who came in through Greece with a false Syrian passport has got to raise very serious questions at the highest levels in Europe about what they're going to do to keep these jihadists out of Europe. So I think there's going to be a big debate in Europe, and we should be prepared to help them.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess the strategy from Angela Merkel right now being questioned, given the chaos that we're seeing as a result of the refugee crisis. What about the presidential election? Is this the kind of 9/11 event that changes history, that changes strategy, or do you think this becomes part of the new normal, sir?
It's a tough question to answer. Basically, if you look back at our reaction to terrorism over the last 40 years, and I've been involved in it all that time, it's very hard to sustain public attention over a long period of time, even after 9/11. We're now, 15 years after 9/11, and people's attention begins to fade. I don't know what effect it will have on the presidential elections. I do know that the next president is going to inherit a serious mess in the Middle East, and he or she is going to have some serious thought about a new strategy there, because I don't think we're likely to get it based on what this administration said yesterday. We're not likely to get it from this administration.
And real quick, Ambassador, how does the most recent Iran deal play into this, where we know that Iran will now have $100 billion or more as a result of this nuclear deal?
Well, Iran is the major Shia terrorist center. It has been identified by the State Department really since I was there 30 years ago as the major state sponsor of terrorism. That hasn't changed. And I don't know how you square that with a program which allows Iran to have nuclear weapons.
From all of the discussions that we've been having this morning, it feels like the Obama administration has some answers to give to the people. Do you think we'll hear from President Obama in terms of what his steps will be next?
Well, I don't know. On the bright side, and it is a small look at the bright side, it's clear that we're coordinating better with the Kurds now in the effort to retake the cities in the north of Iraq that were seized by ISIS. We retook Sinjar over the weekend, the Kurds did, and that's the first step towards retaking Mosul. Basically, this caliphate has a triangle of cities, Raqqa, Mosul, and Ramadi. And in the end, we have to have a strategy that lays out a credible way to retake those three cities and destroy the caliphate. I hope we hear that from the president.
This is an extraordinary situation that is developing quickly. Ambassador, thank you very much. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, Maria.
Ambassador Paul Bremer there.